Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Just Because Wrestling. We are here on the how do I say it? The post of one of the or the end of the week of one of the biggest weeks in wrestling in a while, and I feel like I'm saying this kind of a lot when I'm starting these podcasts now, but I think that's a good thing to be doing as well because it shows the progression of the industry and a huge week in terms of outside activity outside of the number one wrestling promotion WWE, which we will discuss in detail earlier. But unfortunately, we have to start with a bit of sad news, which unfortunately we've had to do quite a lot this year. In the wrestling industry, and that is the death of Pat Patterson, who is one of the pivotal, and you could argue founding fathers of the WWE as we know it. He was he was the first intercontinental champion. You know, and like he was one of the first openly gay wrestlers, probably the first of his time. Partnered with Ray Stevens, which was one of the first interracial tag teams of the era. And then later on in his career, obviously went to WWE, became a close confidant of Vince McMahon. Then was the father, the person who birthed the Royal Rumble, and later on, played a pivotal part in the Attitude Era, with the Three Stooges, along with Jerry Briscoe and Vince McMahon, and someone who's always been there in the WWE. And it's sad when someone who's been such a cornerstone of the wrestling industry goes. It's always a sad occasion. So yeah, Billy, your thoughts on the legacy of Pat Patterson?
I mean, like that word alone kind of sums it up really. Like legacy, I don't think there's very few people, I think, in the wrestling industry, the handful of people I'd say, who can say they've left a legacy like Pat Patterson. And like you said it yourself, like first ever intercontinental champion, like that belt now has become one of the most, one of the most important championships in professional wrestling, and like it's recognized, as the second, the secondary title of the WWE, and more so than that, like a lot of people covered the Intercontinental Championship more so than the WWE or Universal or World Championship or whatever, because of what it represents. It represents, the workhorses of WWE more often than not, and it shows like when you're given that title, it shows that you're kind of you're dependable on having, a lot of the time, match of the night, and from an in-ring standpoint anyway. And Pat Patterson was the man who was given it first day, and obviously with that, the infamous tournament Rio de Janeiro, the mythical tournament that took place in Rio de Janeiro, where he won it first, unifying the North American and South American championships, and where he beat like 400 wrestlers or something to get to the title. Like just one of those wrestling lores that like has stood the test of time. And again, like you said, not even from a wrestling standpoint, like from a cultural standpoint, being probably the first openly gay professional wrestler, certainly of his caliber anyway. And what that did for a lot of people in the industry. And I know it was something that was kind of kept out of the limelight for a lot of his career. I know it wasn't really discussed publicly by WWE until 2014, when
in the Legends House, wasn't it?
Yeah, when Patterson appeared on an episode of Legends House, and he talked about his longtime partner of like 40 years. His name escapes me now. I can't remember.
Louis was his name.
Yeah, Louis. and he passed away in 1998, but they were together.
Actually, a fact for you: he passed away on the same day as King of the Ring, 1998. So the night Mick Foley flew off the cell was the same night.
I read that. Yeah. Was not the same night Pillman died.
No, Pillman died the day before the Michaels Taker Hell in a Cell.
Oh yeah.
So you're getting your wires crossed.
Yeah, but anyway, so obviously, like from that standpoint, Patterson became kind of, a kind of, what would you call it, a role model for a lot of wrestlers who perhaps, because of the industry that they're in, found it kind of hard. I would imagine that certainly, definitely back when Patterson was in his heyday. I mean, it's a lot more, obviously it's kind of a lot more accepting now, but I would imagine at one point, like, wrestling was a very machismo sport, like, where if you were gay, it was probably, I would imagine that the boys in the locker room probably didn't take very kindly to it and were probably very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was a different.
I would imagine Pat Patterson being there would obviously help. Yeah, so obviously times have changed, but he's helped a lot of people come forward, and
it's still a thing that's still developing. I'd imagine that there is some wrestlers out there who are gay and haven't come forward about it or haven't revealed their sexuality yet. So it's still it's certainly a thing I would imagine hasn't been fully resolved. But Pat Patterson is someone who was a pioneer of it, who's a pioneer for someone to say that he was, it was okay to be gay within the wrestling industry. And like, the thing was, he, like, as you said, they didn't WWE didn't publicly, and they probably didn't feel the need to, because why, like, Patterson's sexuality isn't really anyone's business in this modern world anyway, so especially for how long he was with the company. And it's the same goes with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't, like, there's someone's sexuality is obviously not important, in a from a professional standpoint, but, like, having someone like Patterson there, if you felt uncomfortable, if you were struggling with your sexuality and were unsure whether you'd be accepted or not because of of who you are, it's having someone like Patterson, kind of be the beacon for, the beacon of hope and the kind of lighthouse of that community in the wrestling world.
And, like, it is, it's a different world now, and it was kind of fitting, and I know it wasn't alluded to because it didn't need to be, I don't think, but and that's kind of shows the progression here, that it doesn't need to be highlighted, people's sexuality. But, like, just for context, Pat Patterson died on Wednesday, and Wednesday evening AEW crowned a new champion who's bisexual, but it's just a normalized thing now, which is great. They didn't have to go out of their way and say that he's a bisexual champion. No, like, it's just a normal thing now, and that's something that Pat Patterson helped build too, which I thought was kind of fitting and kind of a nice coincidence, should we say?
Yeah.
But for someone like Pat Patterson, it's sad. 2020 has been a tough year anyway, but it's starting to look like WWE are losing those core people, like, the people who, as time moves on, and the company obviously ages. Obviously, the people who were there from the start, just through natural way of life, will start to die off, and it's sad that we're starting to see that now. Still, like, we saw Howard Finkel earlier this year pass away, and he was the first employee of WWE, and Pat Patterson was one of those people as well. And it's just sad that, you know, it's getting to that point where, you know, it's moving on, and the WWE is losing the people that made it what it is today, you know. But that's just life, and that's just the way things move on. But you know, that doesn't make it any difficult or any sadder to see. So, you know, you look at the influence that Pat Patterson has had on these people. It's similar, I would say, to, you know how everyone kind of in this era says that if they ask who was their major influence, they say Dusty Rhodes, because Dusty Rhodes was the guy in NXT at the time when they were all coming up. So he was their kind of mentor. But like Pat Patterson was kind of the generation before that, the ruthless aggression to attitude era guys, you know, like The Rock and Cena and Triple H, and, you know, everyone, Angle, you know. So I said it when I posted about it during his death. He did what a good wrestler does, and he left the industry in a way better position than when he found it, and that's the mission statement of wrestling, really, of any wrestler. And no wrestler did that more than Pat Patterson, I reckon. So you know, it's sad that he's after moving on, but the legacy that he has left on this industry will be forever seen, you know, and that's something that gets put around a lot, but it's true with Pat Patterson, you know.
Yeah, like when you're the guy who's credited with coming up with the Royal Rumble, you know, like that is, you know, one of, if not the biggest, like one there. It could be the most look forward, like the match and the event that people look forward to the most every year, I would say.
Like, I go as far as to say that outside of WrestleMania, it's probably WWE's greatest creation in terms of event.
Yeah, and
you know,
like he was the one who is credited for coming up with the idea. Like he wanted to do a battle royal, but he wanted to do a different spin on it, so he did the staggered entrance. Staggered, and like it was such a simple kind of tweak to an already established match, and it became one of the most famous, like one of the famous things, like that's just synonymous with WWE. Like, I mean, if you talk to a Royal Rumble is, I know, I remember being a kid, you know, growing up and going to, you know, birthday parties and stuff, and I think that was guaranteed to happen if there was a bouncy castle or a trampoline or something. There was gonna be, like,
yeah, you're kind of cutting out there.
That is literally the influence. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you just cut out a bit, but you know, we got the gist of what you were saying, the influence of birthday parties and you know, like, every birthday party you'd go to as a kid, and you just realize now that it was Pat Patterson's creation, you know.
Yeah, Pat Patterson had an influence on the birthday parties I went to as a child.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly sad day, or it's a sad time because of you know, his passing and stuff. It's never nice, but like at least we can look back and say, like you said, he left the wrestling world a better place than when he came into it. Like he will always be fondly remembered. You know, a lot of people besides Vince, he was probably the most kind of acclaimed person in the WWE, and for a long time anyway. And like, yeah, I mean, what a legacy to leave behind. And you know, our obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to his friends and family. But yeah, I mean, the wrestling world has certainly lost a huge legend this week, and don't know what else to say really.
It's like it's obviously sad that he's passed, but you know, there's plenty of sad stories in the world of wrestling, and certainly Pat Patterson's legacy is not one of them. So, you know, as we should be sad that he has passed on, we should rejoice the life and legacy he has left behind. So in the spirit of that, we will continue on with the show. The show must go on. So yeah, RIP to Pat Patterson. His legacy will continue forevermore. And as we head closer to the Royal Rumble, it's only a month away. His legacy will be felt there and forevermore. So yeah, that's all. That's all we have to say on Pat Patterson's passing. So we'll move on, and it's kind of hard to transition, and it's something we've sadly gotten used to this year with the amount of deaths we've had in wrestling, that we have to transition from mourning another person's in the industry's death to moving on to talking about the industry and what's going on at the moment. But unfortunately, we have to do that. So yeah, we'll take it from here. A big week or big 2 weeks. Our last episode was about Survivor Series. I don't really want to spend much time talking about that absolute tripe. The tag team match was good. Roman and McIntyre was excellent. Raw versus SmackDown should not be a thing anymore. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that.
I mean, like, it was a fight. Like, it wasn't the worst show in the world. It was grand, but the whole Raw versus SmackDown thing doesn't really make much sense anymore. So
it was a very forgettable show, is what I'd say. Very forgettable. But
that's the series. Like, everything is immediately put on hold, and then as soon as Survivor Series ends, we're back on track again. So might as well never.
So,
So we'll move on.
So we might as well discuss the big elephant in the room this week, which happened on Wednesday at AEW.
Yeah.
So the whole show, I could argue, was one of the best Dynamites that they've ever have put on since it started. Now that does. Sorry, say that again.
A lot of people were saying it was the best. So, like, it was probably, in my opinion, the most newsworthy.
Yeah. It's definitely the most newsworthy one. It's like coming out of it. It seemed like all the news that came out of it. It was like a pay-per-view, But so we'll discuss that. The show itself, I thought wasn't perfect. I still think it's up there as one of the best Dynamites they've produced. But if I was nitpicking it, and if I'm Tony Khan, he should be. There is some holes, especially towards the end of the show, which I'd like to discuss. But before that, we'll discuss one of, if not the, in my opinion, best segments in Dynamite history, and that is the debut of the icon, Sting. And for those of you who are keeping score, Sting featured in our last episode, very, very hotly debated, shall we say, about whether he'd wrestle again or not. And
no. Do not spin this. So it makes me step wrong. We debated whether he would wrestle the Undertaker.
That was part of the debate. I thought the bigger picture,
and I'm pretty sure I said that he would never wrestle in WWE.
I thought you were pretty sure that I'm pretty sure you said that he wouldn't wrestle again, that he can't wrestle.
I don't know. I have to go back and review the episode myself. Yeah.
You might get away with it on a technicality, but you came very, very close to eating your words on this historical podcast.
Yeah. My
But,
favorite way to win by technicality. Yeah.
So yeah, what did you think of the segment? I
Let's
thought it was
talk.
excellent.
Oh, I thought it was so good. I mean, I know a wrestling segment is good, or at least I know I think it's good if I rewatch it several times.
I've
And
watched that debut about 15 times already.
yeah,
It's
like watched it. I watched it a good few times now, and each time it's like, oh, this is so good. Like the last one before this was Edge's return. Like that was the last thing before this that I watched, like, you know, 100 times.
yeah.
And it's almost fitting that this year has been bookended, but two massive that a lot of people didn't think would ever happen again. Edge on one end and Sting on the other, and like just the whole thing. Like, so, you know, I suppose like I'll set the scene for people who weren't there or who didn't see it. So you have the match obviously ends. It was Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. Match ends. Cody and Darby get the win. Team Taz come down, start beating down on Cody and Darby. Then Aaron runs down. He gets beat up, and then Dustin runs down. He gets beat, and it looks like Ray and Cody with title with the FTW title, and then lights go down, and like everyone's like, "Ooh, what's this?" And then snow starts falling from the arena, like it starts snowing in day, and then you know you get this like these images start flashing up on the Tron, and it's like all, you know, wintry and whatever. And next thing, the name just flashes up, Sting. Out he comes in the jacket, in the face paint, whips out the bat, and like Team Taz like just scatter like rats because they're just like, you know, not gonna mess with Sting. Come on now. And
Yeah.
he gets into the ring, and you have, you know, he stares down every member of, or everyone in the ring. He stares down Aaron because obviously a lot of history there. Stares down Dustin. I guess there's some history there too. Stares down Cody because like they hammer home the fact that Cody's favorite wrestler growing up and whatever. And then he stares down Darby Allin for a really long time, and you know, really gives Darby Allin the once over. And you know, then
Well, you first off, you've left out a big moment leading up to that, and it was when he came out, and we got to hear Tony Schiavone shout,
oh, yeah.
"It's Sting," for the first time in 21 years on TNT, which is something, if you had said to me 3 years ago would have happened, I would have called you an idiot. But it's amazing how wrestling becomes or can turn full circle like that.
Yeah, like, yeah. I mean, like a lot of people got very emotional at Tony Schiavone. You know, commentating on Sting on TNT in 2020.
Yeah.
It's like we live in the Matrix. It's weird. Like I mean, but yeah, I mean, like Sting is back. It was announced then that he signed a multi-year contract with AEW. Apparently, it's a lot of places are. This hasn't been confirmed by AEW, but a lot of places are reporting 3 years. That is a 3-year. And yeah, I mean, they gave him the graphic that the icon Sting is all elite, and they said, you know, he has a T-shirt now.
Yeah.
And it became the fastest selling T-shirt in 24 hours on Pro Wrestling Tees, which is crazy. And yeah, I mean, like 61-year-old Steve Borden is in all elite. People are freaking out. And like, here's the thing. This is something that like I feel like we'd end up talking about anyway. But like, there was a lot of people, and this was bound to happen anyway. But there was a lot of people on Twitter, you know, being like, if WWE had brought back Sting, you know, people would have complained because, like, or when WWE bring back Goldberg or WWE bring back, you know, whoever, they like when they bring back legends, you know, people shit on it because like it's old talent coming back. But
well,
if
the
WWE,
difference, yeah, I think we're going to hit on the same nail here, but the difference is that Goldberg comes in and beats the Fiend within 5 minutes, who's their top guy, who was on the verge of being their top star. And he beats Kevin Owens in 5 seconds, and all shit like this. It's like
keep in mind when Goldberg came back, everyone was really excited about it.
Yeah, I was, but
yeah,
I still like watching Goldberg wrestle, just not for the title. For instance, when he wrestled Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam, and he just came out and just destroyed him, but there was no proper, there was no proper stakes on it. That's great. Give me that. I'll watch that. I'll watch Goldberg wrestle tomorrow, but just not for the Universal title. So
exactly. But what I was gonna say was if WWE if WWE brought Sting out in that exact same way, I would still freak out the same, because that was the coolest thing, one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen in wrestling. Just the snow and the it's kind of the wintry imagery and stuff, and just I never think of Sting in that kind of sense. Like I said to you, I never saw Sting a figure of winter, but now I can't help but visualize him as the Night King, because it was just I don't know, it was probably the best debut in in its short history. And it was cool, it was really cool. I don't know how much I feel about the idea of Sting wrestling, for the simple fact, for his own personal health. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but if it can be done correctly and safely, and it's not he's going out there and squashing Cody Rhodes in 10 seconds, or squashing
which you wouldn't be
Powerhouse Hobbs, someone who's on the come up, with a lot of promise. I don't want Sting coming in and just ruining guys.
And that's the difference between WWE and AEW. Well, hopefully, anyway, we hope. But Sting is going to come in here, and it's going to be, some nice. If he is going to wrestle, we still don't know if he is, but I'd imagine the way they brought him in, he was in gear, and he signed a multi-year deal, which you wouldn't really announce and have this big entrance for someone if he was just going to be a manager or something. So I imagine he's going to wrestle at some point, but WWE looked at Goldberg and was like, okay, there's our guy. Put the title on him. He's 50 or 52 or whatever his age is. And it stopped the progression of Kevin Owens. It stopped the progression of The Fiend, stuff like that. So, once they don't have Sting and be like, oh, Sting, okay, you're going to beat Kenny Omega tomorrow in 5 minutes, and you're going to be our guy, and we're going to strap the rocket to you, because Sting doesn't need the rocket strapped to him, and neither did Goldberg. They don't need the Universal title. They can be an attraction by themselves, and I think that's one thing Tony Khan needs to look at, and I'm assuming that will. And plus, I don't think when Sting wrestles, I don't think he's going to be wrestling 40-minute main event matches, and then I think they're going to use him wisely. I think that he's probably going to work a tag match, maybe a 6-man tag match, maybe. I don't think he's going to be. I think they're going to hide his weaknesses, because he is he's a phenomenal character, and he was and still probably on his day could be a great wrestler still, but he is 61, he is 61 years old. There's a time where you just have to accept that. So
that he's 61. He's 61, and someone who had to retire due to injury. So there will be limitations there, but I think the character of Sting is, you know, so strong that like you can hide these things. If you go about this very carefully and you map it out and you know what you're going to be doing from like here till whenever. Like if you put a 6-month program in play or a 6-month plan, and you map out everything meticulously, you know, with Sting, because again, he's 61, he had to retire, you know, 6 years ago because of injury, and you know it gets to a point where you're like, or 5 years ago rather, due to injury. So it gets to a point where you're like, right, you know, we have to be very careful here what we do. And, you know, I'm sure Sting himself will be consulted, whether like, you know, does he want to do this? Does he want to do that? You know, what does he feel is best? And I'm sure I'm confident enough saying that he's a big enough professional to know what's best for him and the company at the same time. And for whoever he's involved with. But like, yeah, I mean, like I was never like we were too young to really kind of fully appreciate WCW and Sting in WCW, like from that, like, you know, live kind of thing. Like obviously we can look back on it now and watch matches now and appreciate it for what it was now. But you know, my introduction to Sting came when I was young. When I was younger, I used to watch a lot of TNA because it used to be on telly like all the time. It used to always be on Spike TV and stuff, and I used to just, you know, it used to always be on kind of at a reasonable hour, so I used to always throw it on, and that's how I got kind of properly introduced to this thing. Like I had known of him. I think it was pretty hard not to know about him, but I was fairly kind of unclear on the whole, you know, what Sting was about, and even from his run in TNA, it actually, like, that still captivated me. Like Sting still became like such a captivating figure for me in professional wrestling. Like it got to me now, like now I can confidently say that, like, I think, you know, in the argument of Sting or the Undertaker, I'd be picking Sting. Like I think I prefer Sting just because I don't know, I like when the Undertaker comes out, like obviously it's great, but when Sting comes out, I get excited. Whereas when the Undertaker comes out, I'm like, oh, it's the Undertaker. Like obviously, oh, it's great, the Undertaker. But like when Sting comes out, I feel, you know, like the best wrestling moments are the ones that make you feel like you're a kid, and it, like, you know, you've no idea of any backstage politics, or you don't know what kayfabe is, and you're just watching it as it is. And when Sting comes out, like especially last Wednesday when Sting came out, I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. And he just has an aura, like this energy about him that he just is so captivating. And like,
Yeah.
the fact that like he went for so long in his career, you know, back as when he was Surfer Sting, and had such a successful career, and still had like such a huge fan base as well at that time, and to come back and reinvent himself so dramatically, and like to go a complete 180 on the character, and, you know, become, you know, the Sting that we know now, is amazing, really. As like for a wrestler to do that, to be so popular and to have a gimmick, you know, locked up, and to completely reinvent themselves to something polar opposite and be arguably probably more successful, certainly from a popularity standpoint. It's it's a marvel at the character work that he's done, and I'm excited for him to be back for the simple reason that I think he will be handled properly, and I think he will be used properly. And like, he rest, I don't know if he'll wrestle or not. I couldn't confidently say that he's going to wrestle. And like like you said, we debated about it last week. I'm still of the mind that, like, I don't know if it's the best idea that he should wrestle. I don't know. But as you said, and, you know, very kind of, you know, correctly pointed out, like, they made a big song and dance about him signing. He was in kind of gear when he came down. Like, why would you announce all this and do all this for just a manager? You know, it's Sting, but still.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't confidently say that he'll wrestle again until it's bought. even still, even the fact that he's going to be in the company, he's going to be involved. He's going they've announced that next week on Dynamite he will be speaking, that he will be addressing why he's in AEW, and like even that is enough to get me excited for AEW. You know what I mean? Like that would make me want to tune in the show.
Yeah.
Like so, like yeah. I mean, Sting is great. If you don't like Sting, then I don't know what to say to you. The Sting is fantastic. Like he's so cool. He's the best.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Sting. But you know, moving on from that, we get to the main event and the groundbreaking result coming out of that main event was Kenny Omega, and we alluded to this earlier, winning the AEW title, and not only that, but aligning himself with his former New Japan mentor, you'd say, and a man who was trained by Kenny's uncle, the Don Callis, who is he's basically in charge of Impact. I don't know what his actual title is. Vice president?
I think he's an EVP. I think that's literally I think he's an executive vice president, or is he like co-president or something like that? It's something to do with presidency anyway, is his title.
So Don Callis, some former president at Impact Wrestling. I bet Impact Wrestling don't even know. But he has aligned himself with Kenny and helped him win and capture the AEW title, and as a result, they hightailed it out of the arena, and they were met with Alex Marvez, who asked, what's this all about? They were getting into a car, and Don Callis said, well, you'll have to see on Tuesday. And Alex Marvez, like an idiot, said, but Dynamite's on Wednesday. But,
hold on, before you go any further, and before you rag on Marvez, like I saw so many people commenting, being like, I was the same. I was like, he's after making a mistake here. Dynamite is on Wednesday, and like, what's he talking about? Is he talking about AEW Dark? Like, shut up! Like, you did not.
Yeah. Tune into Dark.
No, but like people are like, I thought it was like he's after making a mistake. I was like, yes, like he would make that mistake, like being like, oh yes, it's Tuesday. Like he's working on the Wednesday. Like he's at Dynamite on a Wednesday that day.
Yeah, but he's also in charge of Impact, so he they're a company of mistakes.
Like people are like,
I know.
But do not rag on Marvez, because that man is a journalistic marvel. And
no,
he is like.
I was joking. I actually really like Alex Marvez okay. Jesus, what's the love for Marvez about?
He doesn't get enough love. He was a shit commentator, I give you that, but as a backstage journalist, the man gets work done.
Well, no, it's good. Did you now you're making me sound like Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff on his podcast months ago, someone brought up, or Conrad brought up something about Marvez, and Eric went off in a big, huge rant about how much of a big piece of shit Alex Marvez is, and he was like, "Fuck that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about." And like, Conrad was like, "I've actually never heard anyone talk anything bad about Marvez," and he was like, "No, fuck that. He is a piece of shit." And he went off this like 10-minute rant about Alex Marvez, and came back the next week and had to apologize because he got Alex Marvez and Brian Alvarez mixed up.
Oh really?
And like Conrad was like, yeah, I was thinking that. It was like nobody says anything bad about Marvez. Like he's one of the nicest people ever. And he was like, Eric was like, I just didn't. I got him mixed up. And he's like, I've actually never met Alex Marvez. It's like, I bet he's a nice guy.
Alex Marvez probably sitting home listening to this, being like, "What did I ever do to Eric Bischoff?"
But since Eric Bischoff that was before he did like his cameos in AEW and stuff. So, I think like Eric Bischoff, I think he sent like Marvez a hamper and everything after that. Like they've become like friends from it. Like, but it was just funny because he just went off on this big fucking rant about Alex Marvez and no one could understand why. And he was like, he's a piece of shit and all this, and then he had to come back next week and be like, I meant Brian Alvarez. But anyway, so obviously it's a ground moment. And like, I think the segment itself pales in comparison to the actual impact, no pun intended, of this groundbreaking kind of like kind of amalgamation, you'd say, or partnership. So, but the segment itself, I will criticize slightly, right? Because I felt like there was a better way of doing it, right? Number one, right? And I've thought about this meticulously. Number one, and I would like, I don't know the inner working, so this is the one that I have less emphasis on, but it's something if we could have avoided it, I would have. I wouldn't have had Alex Marvez, or not Alex Marvez, no, you just have him in my head. I wouldn't have had Don Callis commentate on Kenny's match against Hangman if he was going to do this, because when he came in and sat down at the comedy desk for this match, I was like, okay, he's here now twice. This is strange. Something's fishy. And maybe that's the idea that they wanted to do. But in my head, I was like, okay, something's going to go down here now, because like you wouldn't just bring back Don Callis for nothing. So if it was up to me, I wouldn't have had, because it kind of just took me out of it and took kind of the shock element out of it for me. So that would have been one. Two, once the thing was actually done and once Kenny won the title, like, I don't understand how they just picked up the title and ran through the back and like literally ran past Tony Khan, who was looking at him like the way Kurt Angle looked at Roman Reigns for running over Braun Strowman that time. But, like, and then like he ran or they ran through and there's just a line of wrestlers booing him. Like, come on, guys. If you want to make this invasion storyline a bit more realistic, like, what I would have done is have Kenny and because it is plausible in Daly's place as well, because there's side entrances, because it's an open space, that you have Don Callis and Kenny hightail it out of a side entrance, and then have Cody, the Bucks, all the other executive vice presidents, and Tony Khan run to the ring and make it look like he actually stole the belt. You know?
Yeah.
Would you agree, or do you disagree, or?
It didn't bother me as much as I think it bothered you, the fact that they ran to the back, because I think they wanted to show, I think they just really wanted to hammer home the fact that like everyone wasn't happy with this. But
I get that, I mean, but
yeah, I think it would have been better if they went through the side. If they because they are trying to make it be like, they're trying to make it look like a screw job thing, right? And I think that's where the first mistake is, because it didn't really feel like it doesn't seem like a screw job. It's like he cheated to win, but like that happens on a daily basis in wrestling. Like, it's not exactly it's not like they paid the ref to fast count or something. Like, you know what I mean? It's
no, but I think what the idea of it is supposed to be a screw job, because we'll see, we'll learn more on Impact this Tuesday, which, I can't believe I'm actually saying we'll actually see a story progress on Impact this Tuesday. But we'll see.
We hope.
We hope. Yeah, they didn't advertise it, which is the most Impact Wrestling thing I've ever heard in my life. But on top of that, like, the way I took it was that Kenny was in cahoots with Don Callis, and they're going to take the belt to Impact now, kind of a type deal. So running out the side entrance is better. For that, like the example I gave to you off air, and I'll give it to you again, is it's like picture Money in the Bank 2011 and CM Punk just winning the title and going to the back rather than going through the crowd and out the arena. It takes away from it a bit, and that was kind of the same thing for me. No, the moment is still in the bigger picture. The moment is still huge, and the partnerships could be a big thing for wrestling. So
I think it's a monumental thing for wrestling. If I was to nitpick on the whole thing, and I don't know how you feel on the matter, but this bothers me all the time, and it's funny that this happened because I actually saw a clip of something similar from a couple of weeks it was actually from WrestleMania season, and I don't know if this annoys you, but I hate microphones. I really can't understand like the deadliness of a microphone.
Yeah.
Like John Moxley has been put through God knows what, and a microphone, like he gets a little bop on the head with the microphone, and he's dazed, like he's out on his feet.
But see, the one thing I would say to that is not it. I would agree with you if it was the microphone that beat him, but the microphone didn't beat him. The microphone gave Kenny the upper hand that he hit the one-winged angel, which beat him.
Yeah, they saved it in that sense, and also like it worked in the segment with Callis saying like, oh, he's speaking into the mic, being like he's hurt, and then throwing it in. But like, you could have avoided it by having Callis literally blatantly hand Kenny something. Like
I'm holding a microphone right now. Like I'm holding a microphone right now. It's heavy, like. Yeah, you'd hurt yourself.
Yeah, but like it's funny because I actually saw a clip it was just doing the rounds on Twitter for whatever reason, and it was from WrestleMania, the build up to WrestleMania, and it was, do you remember the segment between John Cena and the Fiend, where the Fiend was in like the crowd and John Cena was in the ring, and then Bray Wyatt appeared from behind him, but like John Cena's holding the mic like a knife, and he's like, I'm gonna get it. He's like he has the mic at the ready to defend himself, and I'm like, that is the shittest weapon. I mean, like the Fiend is an interdimensional.
Might as well have picked up a banana, like.
And you're gonna pop him on the head with a mic. It's like,
it's like something you'd see in a scary movie or something like that,
Yeah.
Where like. There'd be so many deadly weapons, and then like a loaf of bread, and your man would go for the loaf of bread.
Yeah, literally. But like, back to the point at hand, I suppose. I think this is a huge thing for wrestling. I mean, credit where credit is due. Impact Wrestling are like, if they were to fall out of a window, they'd fall up. Like they'd fucking.
They're the cats of wrestling. They've literally had 9 lives.
And like, no, I'm not trying to rag on Impact because they have been doing a really good job the last like 2 to 3 years. It's been a fairly consistent product, and it like they always produce fairly good matches. But like, they're just a company that cannot avoid controversy, and something always goes wrong. Every year, something goes drastically wrong that could potentially ruin the company. And they
like for a small segment of you people listening, me and you share a mutual friend named Brian Ahern, and we call him Cockroach Ahern because he'll survive anything, and that's like Impact is the Brian Ahern of of wrestling. Shout out to Brian.
Shout out to Brian listening. If
who I'll tell him 150 times that I've mentioned him on the podcast, and he still won't listen. But yeah.
I think this is a great thing for Impact, especially because I think like it'll get more eyes on them. Like the crossover potential here is obviously really great. Like a lot of dream matches are being floated. Like, well, dream matches, but like big matches that can happen now. And I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I'm going to ask you for your top 3 AEW versus Impact matches that you want to see now?
Hold on. Oh, that is put me on the spot. The North versus FDR comes to mind.
Yeah, great.
Deonna Purrazzo versus Britt Baker.
Yeah, very good.
Another. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think singles. That's a tough one. Who's in Impact now? Who's their top guys? Eric Young. Is it Rich Swan's their champion? Yeah, I could take him wrestling anyone really. Eric Young. Him and Kenny would have a good match, but I don't think it's a dream match.
No.
John Moxley and Sami Callihan.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one for me.
Yeah.
All the matches I'd like to see, I would say Young Bucks versus the Good Brothers.
Yeah.
Or maybe Su Young versus Abaddon. Or what else is there?
You could do Su Young versus the Bunny. I have a call back.
Yeah, or Rosemary versus Ali. They had a whole thing. Or I'm trying to think, because I'm trying to remember who's on Impact's roster.
Well, I know he's not there now, but like they could re-sign him and bring him back. Kurt Hawkins versus Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona.
Yeah. Swoggle versus MJF.
What? What a bizarre match.
Yeah, I'm just throwing shit out there.
Jake Hager versus Ken Shamrock.
Yes, I actually thought of that when my mind started reeling about all the potential. That was one that actually came to my mind. I don't know why.
Those are both MMA guys, and they both use the ankle lock, maybe.
Yeah, Wardlow versus Moose, just two beefy boys.
Moose. Yeah. Trying to think.
Anyone in the X division versus, I don't know.
Sammy Guevara.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't remember anyone who was on Impact's roster.
Hornswoggle versus or Swoggle versus Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
You really wanted to go there.
If you were that way inclined, like the North versus anyone in their tag teams is a great shout.
Yeah, I said FDR, but Bucks as well. FDR and Motor City Machine Guns as well, or the Bucks and Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah, Bucks Young Motor City Machine Guns to run it back from they had a match years ago and it was unbelievable, and run it back would be great. Yeah, I mean there's tons of potential there for for a crossover appeal. Eddie Edwards and Kenny Omega, maybe good match. Eddie Edwards and John Moxley.
Yeah.
Eddie Edwards can have a good match with kind of anyone really. So him versus anyone.
Yeah. Don Callis versus Chris Jericho.
What?
I don't know. Something Jericho would have suggested it. Don Callis is one of his best friends.
Yeah, Chris Jericho versus Johnny Bravo. That guy who got shot.
He has his own issues right now.
It was revealed that Chris Jericho shot him.
I would say oh fuck, her name escapes me now. Jesus Christ, what's her name? Oh, Taya Valkyrie, but Taya Valkyrie's gone, isn't she? Or is she close to it going?
No, she's still there.
I think her contract's up soon though. As in very, very soon.
The Knockouts Tag Team Tournament in the Knockouts tag title tournament, so I don't know.
Okay, so Taya Valkyrie, if she's there, but I read that her contract was I read that her contract was up in around the time of the Rascals. So
all I know is she's wrestling on Tuesday, Jack. So unless that's her last appearance,
maybe her dates are finishing up. Taya Valkyrie versus Hikaru Shida would be good, or anyone. What'd you say? Sorry.
Jordan Grace versus Nyla Rose. Just two powerhouse women.
Yeah, I think there's better matches out there for Jordan Grace, really. I want to see Jordan Grace wrestle that one that was on Dynamite this week. The little one. What's her name? Layla Hirsch. Yeah, that's a better match. But yeah, we could go on about potential for days. So, but we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I saw people actually floating around the idea. I saw people floating around the idea that or the theory that like now that Kenny Omega, is kind of and Don Callis are in cahoots with Impact or whatever, that Callis hired Sami Callihan to attack Jon Moxley that time a couple of weeks back, and that that'll be a tie-in kind of thing. Like, but I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I still think
yeah. Yeah. I also read a thing. It was like I read a thing was like something about Tessa Blanchard coming and aligning with her dad and taking on the company that she hates, but that remains to be seen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to see Tessa Blanchard in that company though. She has some issues to be sorting out. But but yeah, we'll move on. We're going to talk about the other wrestling. I was trying to come up with something clever to do with them getting blowing out of the water in terms of the ratings this week, but I couldn't. NXT is on. NXT Takeover War Games is this week. So it's actually become like a mental block for me now. I can't say it without saying War Games. So yeah. I'm looking forward to this. This will be a good pay-per-view. Do you want to run through the card?
Yeah, we'll run through the card there. And
so, am I right by saying this is Sunday night, not tomorrow night?
Yeah, Sunday night. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, Sunday night, December 6th for Takeover War Games, and yeah, no, it's a good card. It's an interesting card because there's only one championship match on the full card.
Yeah,
which I found kind of interesting. But yeah, we'll run down anyway. I mean, they're all still good matches. So the first match is a match that was only announced on this past week of NXT, but it's bound to be a good one. It is Timothy Thatcher going one-on-one with Tommaso Ciampa in essentially a feud that's been built around who is the more violent person. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that one, Jack?
It'll be interesting. I'm gonna go. It's actually a difficult one to call, but I'm gonna go Tommaso Ciampa because I think Ciampa still needs a big win on NXT. You have to, or on a takeover, like you have to be careful to not fall into the trap that he's now the guy who just does jobs and he's now the gatekeeper, because Tommaso Ciampa still has good years left in him. So you might as well use him because he's very, 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 very good. So yeah, I'd like to see Ciampa win and from there go on and chase his beloved Goldie, and then yeah, like I'd nearly push for Ciampa to win it, to beat Balor for Goldie, and eventually, and once Karrion Kross is available to come back, then we run back that feud and do Karrion Kross and Ciampa and have Karrion Kross beat him again.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, like Ciampa's a weird character in the sense that like it's hard to visualize what he can do outside of outside of NXT, because he's stated on many occasions that he's not leaving NXT for personal and practical reasons. That he because he loves the brand so much, and also because of the many neck injuries that he's had and knee injuries, that he doesn't think that he'd be able for the kind of rigorous road schedule it'll be. But then again, that whole thing is up in the air now as well.
Yeah,
it's I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say what happens with Ciampa, but I in the sense that I'd be pushing for him to, for the simple fact that I think Thatcher is a character who can very easily gain back his heat and gain back some momentum. Like, all he has to do is go out there and just batter someone, and he's a very easy guy to build, I think.
Yeah.
And you can just he's a guy as well. He's a heel at the moment, Thatcher, and he's a guy who his whole character is based off hurting people and putting people being a better wrestler than everyone else. Yeah. And I think you can easily have him lose by having Ciampa be the better fighter rather than the better wrestler. And I agree in the sense that Ciampa should win this one, because you don't want him to be the guy who is constantly he's not to be the gatekeeper of NXT, like you said, and put people over, because just fall down the card, because at one point this guy was NXT, and he was the face of the brand essentially for quite a long time. So I agree. I think Ciampa should win this one, but I think it'll be a fantastic match nonetheless. And next up is a match that, again, I'm really looking forward to it. It's a kind of a love-hate stipulation match, I find. It is Dexter Lumis versus Cameron Grimes in a strap match. And first of all, let me say, this feud has actually been so entertaining. I think primarily for Cameron Grimes, I think he's such an entertaining guy. He's such a good heel in the sense that he's so aggravating and annoying that you can't help but hate the guy. And Lumis is a fascinating character as well. But everything from the Haunted House of Terrors match they had at Halloween to the blindfold match they had on it, and now we have a strap match. Who are you picking in this one, Jack?
This is a tough one to call, because these two men are at a pivotal point in their NXT careers, I think. In normal circumstances, I would go Dexter Lumis in this match. However, Cameron Grimes just won the belt, and that kind of throws a spanner in the works.
What belt?
So I'm going to say that Cameron Grimes wins. And
What belt?
Huh?
What belt are you talking about?
Oh, hold on. Fuck. Is this not for the North American title, no?
No.
Where did I hear this? Hold on now. All right. I'm confused. Oh, your man. Yeah. No, sorry. All right. Sorry. My brain. That's what you get when you spend your day doing college assignments. I forgot that he's not the champion anymore. Sorry. I'm gonna go Dexter Lumis though.
You do know he was never champion.
Sorry, you're cutting out there. Sorry.
You do know Cameron Grimes was never North American champion.
Fuck me. Who am I thinking of?
I have no idea.
Oh, Damian Priest. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Damian Priest. Sorry. I just had a mental brain moment. Sorry. I was thinking of Damian Priest. I'm still going Dexter Lumis. Sorry for the technical difficulties in my brain and on my mic. I'm going Dexter Lumis.
Yeah, I'm going Lumis too, just because I think, again, similar to Thatcher, I think Grimes is a guy who can lose and come back. Like, he probably has the most protected finish in NXT. Like, the cave-in is the most protected finisher in NXT, I would say. And like, yeah, I think Loomis wins. Like, he's the creepy guy. It's a strap match. It's kind of a no-brainer, really. Next up, now we're getting on to the North American Championship. And this
I was just
is
so eager. I was just so eager to get there.
Yeah, you're clearly so excited about this match. But no, it's the only championship match on the card. It is the triple threat match for the NXT North American Championship. It is the current North American champion, Leon Ruff, defending his title against Johnny Gargano and Damian Priest in a triple threat match. Who do you have and why?
I'm gonna go Leon Ruff because I think they're still gonna tell that story of, you know, the ultimate underdog who's just happening to fall into these victories. So I think I'm entertained by Leon Ruff. You know, the stuff with the belt and the belt not being too big for him and stuff like that. It's just funny. It reminds me a bit of stuff that they did with James Ellsworth back in the day. So yeah, I'm going Leon Ruff to somehow retain.
Yeah, I think this match is either going to go one of two ways. I think either Leon Ruff loses, or he wins and he heads down the path of, you know, now he's the guy.
That's usually how matches work, Billy. This is our 100th episode. I thought you would have figured that out now. You know, this match either goes two ways. He either wins or he loses.
You didn't even know who the champion was. Or you didn't even know who the champion was.
Go on.
No, I'm saying he either wins the match and continues his reign or whatever. Or no, sorry, he either loses the match and moves on to do other things, or he wins the match and like starts like buying into his own bullshit kind of thing, being like, maybe I am as good as like they're saying I am, or like maybe I am a really good champion, and you know, slowly starts to turn heel. I think he's going to lose though. I'm picking Johnny Gargano in this. Because Johnny Gargano seems to have a fleet of Ghostface people, and I think they will probably run some sort of interference in this match and, you know, cause a distraction or whatever. And I think Johnny becomes a 3-time North American champion at War Games. Yeah, I mean, like, he's got 3 of them. There's 3 guys wandering around the place in Ghostface masks that are just Johnny Gargano's protectors, apparently. And only one man can stop them, and that is, of course, you know, Deputy Dewey, aka David Arquette. You know, if we're in the mood for bringing back former WCW champions, let's get him in there.
Actually, that was something. I think you're right. I think this leads to David Arquette coming in because he announced the reboot of Scream recently. Am I right? You're up to date more with pop culture than I am.
Yeah, there's a new Scream movie coming out soon enough. Yeah.
So he announced that. So, you know, it's a tie-in with that. And Tony Khan kind of alluded to it a few weeks back when he was talking about the town hall of. I don't know if we've discussed this, but stop me if we have. But do you know, in the town hall that they had about MJF joining the Inner Circle. Yeah. You know, when Peter Avalon comes on and he says, "I'm just going to shoot my shot. Can I join the Inner Circle?" The original, person that they had in mind for that was David Arquette, and like apparently then the idea was that the Inner Circle were going to like consider having David Arquette in the Inner Circle, but the he just said then he said, but due to other obligations he had with other companies, it just wasn't possible. So, you know, maybe there's something to be said for that.
Maybe I was only taking the piss. Maybe I don't know. Like,
but you were only taking the piss. You don't think this leads to David Arquette coming in?
I think it's possible. I
I
think
think it's
it's
definite
not
that
because he's making
that he's coming in.
like it's just very strange that they're very obviously using like ghost face masks. That
It's
like
going to lead. It's going to lead to David Arquette, I'd imagine.
it has to. Like, I mean, it would certainly be funny. It would be very funny if they did. In a good way. And like, I mean, like he did just drop like the big documentary, like you cannot kill David Arquette, and like he's kind of making the rounds at the minute.
I actually haven't watched that. Have you watched it? Because I've heard it's excellent.
I heard about it, and like it's meant to be. I've seen clips of it. I saw one clip of it where. Have you ever seen the Mexican luchadors who have matches in the middle of the road during traffic?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does one of them, and it's like it's funny enough. Like he does like a crossbody off the top of a giant ladder in the middle of the road, and like like I haven't seen it. Like I know in it he gets stabbed by Nick Gage as well. Nick Gage stabs him in the neck at one point.
Well, yeah, that was an issue at a GCW event, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's documented in this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I haven't seen it. I've heard nothing but good things though. Apparently, it is meant to be very good. And yeah, I mean, who knows? David Arquette might run down here. I wouldn't be shocked. So
yeah.
that match, the North American title match. Next up, it is one of two War Games matches. So the first is the men's War Games match. It is the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish, taking on the team of Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, and the NXT Tag Team Champions, Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan. Who do you have? Why?
I'm going UE. I think I don't think, because this was organized such on a whim due to the injuries and stuff like that they brought Pat McAfee in. That I don't think Pat McAfee is going to be around full time. No, it could be a surprise. You could be surprised. Maybe he is, but I don't think Pat McAfee is long for this world in NXT. I think he was just brought in due to a number of injuries they had, and as a result, I think UE get the win here, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from there. Then, like, because UE stay as the kind of proverbial baby faces, which I don't think is their strong suit. Or do they go back to being heels? I'm not sure. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to the match. I'm looking forward to seeing Pete Dunne wrestle for the first time in a while.
Did you see his ladder match on NXT last week?
No, I missed that.
Yeah, him and Kyle O'Reilly had a ladder match for the advantage in this match. Yeah. I mean, like, it was excellent. Like, he's in phenomenal condition.
He's in the best shape of his life. He looks incredible in shape. So
and like, hasn't lost a step. Like, I mean, it was a great match. Like,
yeah. So it's great to see Pete Dunne back in the ring, and I haven't seen the match with the ladder match. I'll have to go back and watch that, but I am looking forward to seeing him wrestle this week. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing Pat McAfee wrestle again. He done very, very well in his first outing. It'll be interesting now with the War Games concept, because there's a lot of things a lot of moving parts in War Games. So it makes it more difficult for him. But if his first match is anything to go by, I think he'll give a good account of himself.
Yeah, that is what. Well, I am actually going against you here, and I am picking Team McAfee to pick up the win here. Because I was thinking about this the other night, and I was like trying to like think of who to pick here, and I think, yeah, McAfee. So he lost the match to Adam Cole, fair enough. Like, it feels weird. Like, they've really built this kind of new heel stable with him, Dunn, Burch, and Larkin, and they've really kind of established them as like this real force in NXT. And McAfee is fantastic on the stick. Like, he is such a good promo, and like I think in time he could be genuinely one of the best promos in wrestling. And like the guy can definitely have an entertaining match. And then he's got three really good wrestlers with him as well to kind of mask any wobbly moments he might have. But I don't know. I feel like, and also there was a promo package on NXT this week, and it was kind of a recount of the Undisputed Era, like their NXT careers, all their highlights, and being like, this is what we've done in NXT, but it kind of felt like, it almost felt like like Undisputed Era coming to an end almost thing in NXT. It was almost kind of like a recount of everything they've done, just to show everyone, like, like a legacy kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, I might watch into that, but like, it's a strange one. I feel like there might be an ace up the sleeve of Pat McAfee here, because part of me thinks that he won't be in the match. Part of me thinks he'll be bringing in someone to take his place. That now I don't know. I mean, like, he could very well be wrestling the match too. I don't know. But like,
okay, okay. Now that you've brought that up, name someone.
Like, obviously the one that the obvious one is Rich Holland, but he's injured and he won't be coming back anytime soon. Maybe someone like, I don't know, Bronson Reed, someone who's not doing anything.
I have one.
Go on.
The Undertaker.
Because yes.
Well, the other channel has Sting, so Mark. I know. Listen, Mark. I know you retired last week, and I hope you've enjoyed your first week in retirement. But I don't know if you watched Dynamite last week. But
it's not memes in it. Like, yeah.
I saw the ones where it was like me and Mark Callis is all elite and all this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
McAfee probably will wrestle in this match, but I don't know. Something is telling me that they're winning, because they're kind of the new hot thing. Like, if they lose here, they kind of go on.
I was gonna say I can't, because I like, I've only kind of gotten into the NFL the last kind of 2 years, kind of post Pat McAfee. Who did he play for?
Indianapolis.
So the Colts. He played for the Colts. Like, why don't, like, it'd be so funny if they had like some other player from that era from the Colts come in, like the quarterback or whoever it was, come in, and McAfee just has him wrestle. And then at the end of the match, McAfee just runs in and kicks whoever, and like, it's just a summary of what a kicker's job is in NFL. Like, have everyone else do the work, and then they came in and just kick at the end for the win.
Yeah,
a great way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Undertaker is probably more likely, to be honest with you. But yeah,
or the Undertaker. The Undertaker probably played football at some point.
Probably.
He played basketball, didn't he? Yeah. I think he was a basketball. I think he was in a scholarship for basketball when he was younger. So was Kevin Nash.
Oh,
and the Big Show. And the Big Show.
I know Big Show was. I knew the Big Show was. Yeah.
Basically, anyone who's well, in fairness, of course, the Big Show was going to get a basketball scholarship. He was 6'10" when he was 12.
Yeah, he was like a ridiculous. Like, yeah, he was
play football as well, and he literally told stories of teams where they'd turn up, like the manager and their team would turn up to their school ground and get off the bus, see the Big Show at 12 years old, be 6'10", and then they'd all just get back on the bus and go home.
You can imagine that, like, imagine that giant man just looking at you, being like, "Yeah, I'm acting."
Yeah, 12.
Like, you've got a 12-year-old with like chest hair and 6'10", being like, "Yeah, you're marking him."
There's no point. There's no point in playing that. Like, you have
Yeah.
a monster.
Like, especially at 12, like those poor boys, like, would just go home scared for life
Seeing this giant freak coming
because they
at
wrestled this man, this giant Sasquatch bloody 12-year-old.
you. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. I have a friend. I have an old friend who did. He must be scaling at nearly 7 foot now. He was 6'5" when we were 12, 13. And he I think the last time we spoke must have been about, well, last time we met in person, must have been about 3 years ago. He was 6'10", 6'11", skin tipping 6'11", and he said that he used to have to bring his birth cert. He used to play basketball, obviously, and he used to have to bring his birth cert and his passport to every game because the opposition managers wanted to see proof that he was actually of age and not a man that they dressed up in child's uniform. But
what was it?
oh, you wouldn't know him. Friends from Lanzarote from the holidays down through the years. He's not listening either, but I'll shout him out there and call me. But yeah, yeah, it's it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the War Games pans out.
Yeah, it will. And speaking of, we'll might as well move on to the next match. In what I feel like they're building as the main event, I don't know, but it's the women's War Games match. It is Team Shotzi, which is Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and the NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai taking on Team Candice, which is Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and the freshly healed Toni Storm. And I mean, like, I'd imagine this match is going on last because there's a tank on the poster, and Shotzi Blackheart loves a tank. So,
okay. Number one thing about this match, Billy, is that they've broken the cardinal sin of War Games matches, which is heel start first. So
yeah, the babyface had the advantage in this one, which is strange.
Which is really, really strange.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to pick the babyfaces to win, because if they don't, with the advantage, they look like idiots.
Yeah, I am too. I'm picking Team Shotzi to win here.
Like, I get that they're probably, Triple H probably gave the babyface the advantage because in his mind he's thinking, to eliminate that trope that the heels always win. But sometimes tropes are there for a reason.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking forward to the match as much as the men's because of the babyface starting first. I think that's going to be a difficult story to tell. Unless
they do a thing where, like, it's like you have kind of, you could do it in a way like, let's say it's or Shotzi and Dakota Kai start, or whoever, and they're having a match or whatever. And next thing, let's say it's Shotzi and Raquel Gonzalez start, and they're having a thing. Io Shirai down then, and then Raquel Gonzalez by herself, just being like the new monster of NXT, is able to fight off both Shotzi Blackheart and Io Shirai, and it just puts her really strong. Maybe like that, that might be a way to get around it. But yeah, no, it is, and I genuinely think the only reason they did it was so people weren't like, all right, well, it's obvious now that like Team Candice are going to get the advantage because the heels always get the advantage. And
yeah, but there's a reason that trope is there. It makes the match more compelling. But another way of getting out of it is that the heels or someone attacks one of the babyfaces before the match, rendering them unable to compete, and then it's 3 against 4.
Yeah, but then you run the risk of having a repeat of last year, where Dakota Kai turned heel and ruled Tegan Knox out of the match, and then subsequently herself because she just walked out then, and it was 4-on-2. But
Yeah, but you don't have to do it exactly like that.
I know, yeah, I know, but yeah, um, yeah, like I mean, Shotzi's winning here. Team Shotzi's winning because, yeah, like you said, if they don't, like, what's gone wrong? Um, they might use it as a means of getting one of Team Candice a shot at Io Shirai, maybe. But I think what's more likely is, Shotzi gets the win, and then maybe Io Shirai, out of respect, gives her a title shot.
Yeah.
The following week or something, or whatever, or 2 weeks or whatever.
What I want to know is what's the story with Ember Moon?
Oh my god, she's gonna do an eclipse off the cage.
Yeah, that kept in my mind.
She's gonna do an eclipse off the cage. Probably break her tailbone in the process, but
and be out for another 8 months. But like, yeah, the
so,
like, because when she came in, it looked as if she was going to be challenging Io Shirai. So if you're looking on anyone to turn, like you were talking about earlier, it'd be Ember Moon, surely.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like the way they did it, it looked like it was setting up like a fatal 4-way between Io, Rhea, Ember, and Tony. But it kind of like she had the match with Rhea, but then her Ember and Tony haven't really gone anywhere. I mean, like in a mind, like Ember Moon's been really good in NXT, like since her return to NXT. I love her like new gimmick of like kind of weird biker warrior woman, and she's changed up her style a bit. I don't know, is that due to her injury and stuff, but like she's working a lot more mat based technical style, but it really suits. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a weird one, obviously. I mean, it'll be a fun match, I don't doubt that, but
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I suppose it's hard to call. It's hard to really call these matches because, like,
yeah,
how they're going to play out. Really, I mean, it's grand saying the winner, but how do you get there? It's going to be hard. Yeah, I don't know. So that's Takeover War Games, and yeah, you're gonna watch it, yeah?
yeah, I will. Yeah, I've nothing really to do Monday anyway, so yeah, I will.
Good man.
Are you?
Yeah. Sure, why not?
So yeah, as we draw to a close here, on this podcast, we would be remiss to mention, and we've kind of alluded to it, and mentioned it a few times on this podcast already, that this is in fact, if you remove the wrestling or the MMA podcast we've done and the kind of bonus episodes we've done, if you just look at it as this main body of podcast alone, this is our 100th episode, which
Congratulations to us.
which is crazy to think of. Going back to that first time we recorded in just a random Starbucks, like you think, Jesus, 100 episodes. It doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like that long ago. It seems like the time kind of flew.
Yeah, like to me, it seems like we start this. It feels like we've been doing this for ages. It feels like we've always done the podcast. Like ever since we became friends, it feels like we've done this.
Yeah.
But it feels like 100. When I say 100 episodes, I'm like, fucking hell. And then I'm like, obviously it's more than 100 because if you take into account the other like the bonus episodes, like you said, that we recorded. But like, yeah, I mean, like when you go back and like it's literally now hundreds of hours of recording,
Yeah.
And all the things that we've talked about, and a lot of memorable moments, a lot of fun, and
it's amazing, like when you look at how much, and it just goes to show how much the wrestling business changes. When you go back and listen, I did kind of about 2 months ago. I went back and listened to the first episode. It was terrible, by the way, but but you just hear a lot of background noise in the middle of Starbucks, and Starbucks were playing music, and took us a while to find our feet, but going back and
Yeah.
listening to like stuff that we were talking about, like, you know, we were talking about the upside of Enzo Amore and, you know, the future he had in the business, and that went to shit. And
Yeah. I mean, like, hindsight in wrestling is so important that you
yeah,
need to like
yeah,
you need to be
and
able to
like
look, you need to be able to
how
look back and be like, all right, there's a reason why I said that, and like, you know, I understand why it's wrong now.
and like
And
like we were predicting, like, you know, in 5 years time Big Cass would be a world champion, which is hilarious when you think of it now.
yeah,
um, you know, like, you know, we've the evolution of this, you know, we've basically documented in the over these 100 episodes the kind of new evolution of wrestling. You know, when you go back to the first episode that was pre Omega Okada in the Tokyo Dome, it was pre all what followed from that. And, you know, the you know, like, all in, all elite wrestling, 4 WrestleManias that we've covered. This WrestleMania, which was bizarre. Um, Royal Rumble, you know, like huge moments. Um, that live on in history of wrestling. And unfortunately, we've also had the other side of it where we've had to, you know, we've documented a lot of people that the wrestling business has lost, and, you know, that's still relevant today when we talked about Pat Patterson. Um, like, the wrestling business is a lot different from the first episode to the 100 episode. So
yeah.
it's
I mean, like,
interesting. It's interesting to see what it'll be like from the 100 episode to the 200 episodes, you know?
yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
like here's to 100 more and more after that. But like, yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy. Like, this is why this. I think this is primarily why I love wrestling so much. Is because it's always evolving. It's always changing. There's
yeah,
always new, and like, it's so unpredictable. I mean, who would have predicted that 100 episodes ago, we'd be talking about, you know, we'd be talking about Pat McAfee wrestling in a War Games match. You know what I mean? I mean, we
yeah,
didn't even know who McAfee was back then. I didn't anyway.
yeah.
And like,
We'd be talking about wrestling on TNT again.
yeah,
And
and
not only that, we'd be talking about Sting on TNT being commentated by Tony Schiavone
yeah,
again.
and a working relationship with Impact Wrestling, like Impact. That
I actually, that was one of the things in the first episode, and it goes back to what we were saying about them being cockroaches on the wrestling industry. Um, we actually discussed on the very first episode that Impact's on its last legs. There was reports and that they were going to go out of business soon, and yet,
yeah,
100 episodes in, they're still here, and they're actually getting stronger. They're like cockroaches;
yeah.
they're multiplying. Um,
See what I mean? See what I mean? It's like they shouldn't have made You Cannot Kill David Arquette. They should have made You Cannot Kill Impact Wrestling.
Impact Wrestling, yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, no, I mean, like, it's crazy. It's mental. I'd love to go back in time to that Starbucks, just walk in and look at little, you know, 18-year-old me and you, and be like, you know, guess what's about to happen in the next 5 years or the next
yeah,
4 or 3 years, and you know, I'd love to give them the spoilers and just be like, yeah.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, Roman Reigns turns heel, and it's totally worth it. And
You know, in 4 weeks' time, the Great Khali is going to turn up.
and
Like
you'll never.
that's another crazy thing. Like, when you think of it, like, you know, 4 years ago when we started this, Jinder Mahal was WWE champion and Drew McIntyre wasn't in WWE,
Yeah, that's mental.
which is crazy when you think of it, when you think about the landscape of the industry now. You know,
I think I'm correct in saying that 4 years ago, Finn Balor was the NXT champion, and 4 years later, he's still the NXT champion.
you might be right. I'd have to go back and check that.
He might have lasted by the first episode. He might have, but
It was close, though, I'd imagine.
yeah. I'm not sure. Was it 2017 we did the first episode? It was, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, then he lost it. I think. 'Cause I think he lost it. No.
Yeah, it was. We're about 3.5 years in, I think.
Yeah. I know it's June. I know we started in June 2017 because it was in the middle of the Great Balls of Fire.
Which has been a state. Was that the first pay-per-view we covered?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
What a great start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. Like, for you, what are certain moments that stand out over the last 100 episodes? I know there's been so many.
That pipe fell off the bed. That was in the middle of an episode. You just fell, and that was the funniest thing I've ever heard because it was just a and then like
you know, I actually tried to go back and find that episode.
Really,
I couldn't find it. I can't remember what episode it was, but I'm gonna have to go back. One of these days, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna listen through every single one of them, and I'm gonna find it because I wanted my original idea when I was thinking about putting together the 100 episode a few months back because I knew it was coming up. My original idea was to start the episode with that clip of me falling off the bed. But
like,
I couldn't
so funny. It was so funny, and the fact that you tried to like maintain your composure and like
the one thing you cannot criticize me on is my professionalism. I got back up in that bed and I kept going. Which sounds isn't the context that you think it'd be in, but I fell off and I kept my composure, and I think I finished the thought that I was originally making. Stuff like that. Stuff I love as well. I loved our quizzes. They always provoked kind of funny, funny kind of tangents and stuff like that. Which is great. And one of the episodes, like early on, we worked with Owen Good, who we'd be remiss not to mention because he helped us out a lot in terms of learning how to record and learning how to the basics of putting together a show. And he's just the busiest man in the universe, and that's why it didn't end up continuing on, because he still is to this day, because I still see him. He is really busy, but we'd be remiss not to mention him. But I love those episodes that we recorded. We recorded them separately because we had different schedules. Me and you, I don't know what was going on. We were trying to get our college schedules together, but where we went in and he asked us, he put together questions, and we didn't know the questions beforehand, and there were just going to be any questions about wrestling. And he just asked, and it was just fascinating discussion afterwards. It was they're one of my more favorite episodes that we've recorded, and maybe it's something we should look into doing again. But we've in this journey, we've obviously interacted with great a whole host of other great podcasts. The Six-Sided Pod is another person we should mention, who, funnily enough, is getting back into the game. He messaged us about 2 weeks ago to tell us that he's getting back into the podcast game. So go check him out at Six-Sided Pod. We appeared, and I also discussed with him, because he's getting back into the game, that he is going to come on to the show and be a guest at some point soon. Hopefully, now that we've done 100 episodes of me and you just talking, Billy, we might as well bring people into the fold. So hopefully we can get that done soon. We've appeared on his podcast, and we had a great time there. And we have the Josh and Stu's podcast league. They're some of the stuff I look back fondly on as well. The the fun of that, especially when we were winning, and we still are. But
The day we won the title, the day we first won the championship was the fucking one. It was such a funny day. Like,
but even the interactions we had, like we got to record press conferences for that and everything. Like it was one of the funnest experiences I've ever had, and I hope they know that. And I'll let them know that this podcast is coming out and that we've talked about that towards the end of the podcast, so they can have a listen. But I hope they know like that was one of the most fun experiences, and like we got to interact with other podcasts such as Riley Rumble's Omega Luke, who we still up as recently to last January still we're interacting with in terms of Wrestle Kingdom and stuff. And who knows, maybe this Wrestle Kingdom, I know he's not much in the wrestling game anymore, but this Wrestle Kingdom we might have something up our sleeves. But the opportunity to interact with those people, and it's been an incredible experience. And we're not like where if we're talking in the context of the wrestling industry, we're still a small independent promotion. But it's been a lot of fun, and as long as you're having fun doing it, that's all that should matter. And there's been times where me and you have been out separately or together in certain facets, pre-COVID mostly, and people have come up to me, and I know you've probably felt the same, of people telling you, "Oh, you're the reason we got back into wrestling," which is always great to hear and fantastic to hear, because that's what it's about. It's about creating a wrestling community and bringing those people back into it. So we thank the people who've been there since day one. And if you've just joined in on episode 100, we thank you too. Any support we can get, we appreciate. And it's been that's the journey, and I can't wait for it to continue.
Yeah, but hopefully in the next 100 episodes we can keep improving and keep developing and keep growing the podcast, and hopefully we can find ways to make it better, make it more enjoyable, and hopefully come up with some new ideas for it as well. And
sorry to cut you off there, but the last thing I do want to mention is unfortunately when I spoke earlier about thinking about ideas for the 100th episode, and like going back 2 or 3 months ago, and we spoke about it briefly, but unfortunately with the restrictions that came on, a lot of the ideas that I had and we had talked about couldn't be done without people being together, and unfortunately at the moment we cannot record together. But one thing I did follow through on, and I haven't told you about this up until now, but I did go and get commemorative Just Because Wrestling t-shirts made, yeah, to celebrate our 100th episode. But unfortunately, obviously, you're not in the room now, and this presentation would be much better if you were. But yeah, those t-shirts are made, one for me, one for you, and we will we'll post the picture of the t-shirts, and judging by reaction and judging by want, we may put them up for public sale. We'll see. But yeah, it was the t-shirts. Actually, the t-shirt was designed by me, no one else. So I'll take all the credit for that. But yeah, I've actually had them for about 3 months now. Just been waiting to unveil them. But so yeah, next time we get together, you have a t-shirt coming your way, my friend. So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey, and I hope it continues.
Yeah,
It will.
it will, and hopefully on to bigger and better things as we get older and wiser and earn more money, hopefully. And
And like I said earlier, and I'd imagine, and we've talked about this before, and I'd hope you'd be in agreement to this, that after the 100 episode now, we'll look towards adapting and bringing on guests, and like
yeah,
the COVID era has made us learn a lot on how to remote record, which allows us to bring on more guests. What allows us the factor of bringing on guests now, and having them remote record too, rather than organizing times where we can all meet and stuff like that. So, which is part of the reason as to why we've never had a guest on the show and stuff for the first 100 episodes. But it was our voices, and we started it, and I kind of wanted to get through the first 100 episodes first, before we started bringing anyone else into the fold to talk wrestling with us. But we've talked to a couple of people, though we won't give away anything, but we've put feelers out there in terms of episodes and stuff like that. So we'll hopefully we can provide some good guests in the future. But for now, it's our 100th episode, and we thank you.
I cannot confirm or deny that one of them may be Triple H. I'm just saying.
Yeah. He's actually going to come in person. He's going to come out to Kilbarry Cottages. Out in, oh,
you would have to,
I shouldn't have
listen
given
and
my address on. Yeah, shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, but yeah, you'd have
for
to
all you
listen
weirdos out there, for all you freaks out there. Yeah. So Triple H is going to come out to
stuff.
I won't say it again. And
Cork.
Yeah, so I might as well have given out my PPS number while I'm at it. But so we can't confirm that one of them may or may not be Triple H. We've also had discussions with one billionaire CEO of the major wrestling company that you know of.
Anyone.
That could be anyone. No. We're not getting Vince. Not getting Vince. But no, we'll okay. We discussed Six-Sided Pod. I'd love to have Josh and Stu on and talk about their league at some point, stuff like that, and other guests down through the future. So yeah, that's been us, and it's been us for 100 episodes. Thanks for listening, and follow us at JB Wrestling 50. 100 episodes. 100 episodes, and I still can't get it right. JB Wrestling 1998.
I hope to God you didn't put our Twitter on those t-shirts, because it's probably wrong.
I didn't. So JB Wrestling 1998. Just because wrestling on Instagram, which we'll hopefully be getting back onto soon. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys.